recently, Kellyanne Conway was on CNN, and of course, she was giving the usual defense of Brett Kavanaugh. But while she was doing so, she opened up about something personal. Take a look.
I feel very empathetic, frankly, for victims of sexual assault and sexual harassment and rape. That I'm a victim of sexual assault. I don't expect Judge Kavanaugh or Jake Tapper or Jeff Flake or anybody to be held responsible for that. You have to be responsible for your own conduct.
That point made no sense, okay? I acknowledge what she said, that it was very personal, and I commend her for sharing that about herself. But at the same time, did Dr. Blasey Ford come forward and say, Joe Schmo sexually assaulted me, and so I want Brett Kavanaugh to pay the consequences of that? I don't understand what her point is. Her point makes no sense. There are now 3 credible allegations or accusers against Brett Kavanaugh, and they involve Brett Kavanaugh. They don't involve Jake Tapper. They don't involve, Joe Schmo. They involve a very specific person who could be our newest Supreme Court justice, the highest court of the land. So I don't understand how that point made any sense at all.
Look, Kellyanne, we'd be the first ones to defend you if you had suffered that kind of crime against you. And no matter what the politics of it, no matter who did it, if we thought that you had gone through that, which obviously you have, you're bringing it up here, not for any particular reason against someone, right? You didn't name who the person was. So we'd back you on it because we actually care about the issue. But that doesn't give you the right to make nonsensical points. There's a very specific allegation here, or as Anna pointed out, 3 specific allegations about this particular person. Nobody picked a person out of the blue, right? It wasn't like there's all these accusations against other people, but we decided to put it on Brett Kavanaugh. So we're literally trying to figure out a way to help you here in making sense of that statement, but it just doesn't make any logical sense.
Well, this is now the second time that she's tried to make this point. The first time she said something along the lines of Brett Kavanaugh shouldn't have to bear the burden of the entire Me Too movement, right?
Yeah.
But that's not what Brett Kavanaugh is bearing at the moment. What Brett Kavanaugh is dealing with, again, are very specific allegations against him, Brett Kavanaugh. It would be different if, let's say someone came out and said they had a bad date with Brett Kavanaugh, which was similar to the one comedian we did the story about.
Aziz Ansari.
If he was dealing with Aziz Ansari type allegations, then I would be the first to say, okay, let's move on, okay? Because that was a bad date that was blown out of proportion. We talked about it on the show. I don't want to relitigate that. But these are very serious allegations against Brett Kavanaugh. And so he's not bearing the burden of the entire Me Too movement. If anything, maybe it's bad timing for Brett Kavanaugh because women feel empowered to come forward with their allegations. But he's not bearing the burden of other people's accusations against other men.
I don't remember Kellyanne Conway making the similar points about Al Franken. I don't remember her saying, hey, that seems to be an obvious joke photograph where he's actually not touching her. Why is he bearing the burden of the entire Me Too movement? I don't remember Kellyanne Conway making that point. I don't remember her bringing up her past in the context of that conversation. In the context of this conversation, as Anna's pointing out, and I pointed out earlier, in the first time she said it, and I feel bad because we shouldn't get too much into degrees here, but if it's a lighter allegation, right? You could then say, well, you're putting Weinstein and Roger Ailes and what all those other guys did on top of this much lighter allegation. But in this case, the allegations are attempted rape and gang rape. So it literally cannot get any more serious than that. If those allegations turn out to be true, shouldn't he have the full weight of the entire movement on him anyway? And besides which, that's not what anybody's asking for. They're just asking that he be judged on his actions. And we're not even saying that we know for sure that it was his actions. That's why we asked for an FBI investigation. So we're doing the exact opposite of what you're claiming. We're talking about a specific person and saying, let's wait till all the evidence is in.
Isn't it exhausting? Like what she does, is it worth it? I mean, to contort yourself, to try to come up with, excuses for one group of men while simultaneously, condemning another group of men just based on politics. Isn't it exhausting? When the Franken allegations came out, after we saw that picture, we condemned him. And guess what? That's liberating to be able to comment on something fairly without taking politics into account. But her entire job is to defend terrible actions done by terrible people. Now with Kavanaugh, again, for the billionth time, we don't know for sure, which is why the investigation should take place, and then hopefully we'll find out. But the double standard there, like making things up about Kavanaugh while simultaneously condemning the other side of the aisle when they're accused of something, it's pathetic.
And ironically, of course, at the end, in her view of alternative reality, she said that survivors and perpetrators are being treated differently, quote, based on their politics and based on their gender. No, they're not. So Weinstein was a Democratic donor. Did anyone take it easy on him? No, everybody ripped him to shreds. And so Cosby is whatever the hell Cosby is, and everybody ripped him. Charlie Rose, I mean, I don't know, they say he's part of the liberal media, I have no idea what his politics is. They ripped him. Roger Ailes, Bill O'Reilly, conservative, same thing. So where are you getting this double standard from? Except for one person and one administration. It's you, Kellyanne. You're the one who has a different standard, and you work for the administration that has a different standard. As we just pointed out, if it's a Democrat that's charged, you enthusiastically jump in. Or anyone that can loosely be connected to a Democrat, you're like, aha, we know it, right? And whenever it's a Republican, hey, just come on, let's wrap this thing up already. Oh my God, you guys are being so unfair. It's called projection. You should go see a therapist for it. On the go? Don't worry, we got you covered. You can still listen to TYT at our new podcast network. Find us on Apple Podcasts, the Google Play Store, or at tyt.com/podcasts.